Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. I've got a very interesting expose to talk to you, and this expose concerns farmers, and that too farmers from Jharkhand. Let's get right into the show and find out what the expose is. Now, before I get into the Indian Express expose, let me tell you some basic funda. Let's make some basic fundamental facts clear. Now, there is this project, there is this scheme called the Per Drop More Crop scheme, which was launched in 2006. According to Per Drop More Crop scheme, the government pays money, they pay money to the farmers for them to develop micro drip irrigation. Now, let me tell you what is irrigation and what is micro drip irrigation. Irrigation is when you create canals into the farm where from the source of water can come right into the farm or close to the farm. That is what irrigation is all about. Micro irrigation is a little more sophisticated version of this. Micro irrigation, on the other hand, is getting water from the source through tubes and through sprinklers, ensuring just about enough water is spread over the farm. This is micro irrigation. So the force and all is lesser. The way the water is delivered is at a lesser force, and so on and so forth. So it ensures that plant gets water and enough quantity of water, not excessive quantity of water, enough quantity of water. This is what is called as micro drip irrigation. Now, why micro drip irrigation is important? Micro drip irrigation is an intelligent way of using water. So your water lasts for longer. You get more crop per drop, like the line, whichever creative person wrote this line, you get more crop per drop. And if all our farms are micro irrigated, in fact, you can't use micro irrigation for a lot of plants, but if you use irrigation and micro irrigation for our farms, our produce will triple in the coming years. Our farmers will prosper. So this is why micro irrigation. The reason I am explaining to you is for you to understand how important irrigation and micro irrigation is, especially micro irrigation. And now I'll tell you why is micro irrigation so important in a place like Jharkhand. Micro irrigation is important in a place like Jharkhand is because rural poverty in Jharkhand, which is primarily dependent on agriculture, rural poverty in Jharkhand is second to Odisha. That is why you require such schemes in Jharkhand. Farming in the state is highly dependent on rainfall. It is completely dependent on rainfall. 82% of the farming, of the water required for farming comes from rainfall, and that is between June to September. Therefore, they only farm during Kharif, that is between June and November, December. They don't make use of Rabi. So the fact is, therefore, farmers there are poor, and it is possibly the second poor rural state in the country after Odisha. This is the state of farmers. Now, before I get into scam, let me also try and explain to you as to what happens if the farmer depends only on rainfall, which is basically nature. See, what happens is normally any business we do is year on year, year to year, isn't it? In India, we calculate from March to April. So, financial year ending at 31st March, starting on the 1st of April to 31st March. This is our financial year. You see, what happens is, for us, if it's an organized sector or an unorganized sector, you do trading every day, you trade every day. Okay, even if you are seasonal, you have regular trade in every season, that particular season, you have regular trade. But in farming, it may not be true. What happens in farming is, in farming, you have to consider 5 years, not year on year. You have to consider 5 years, which the government is still not considering. We are considering year on year. The reason I say that we have to consider five years is because chances are year 1 good rainfall, year 2 good rainfall, year 3 bad rainfall, year 4 bad rainfall, year 5 good rainfall. It would be a good 5 years for the farmers. 3 years good rainfall, 2 years bad rainfall. But then there are chances year 1 good rainfall, year 2 bad rainfall, year 3 bad rainfall, year 4 bad rainfall, year 5 good rainfall. 2 years out of 5 years good rainfall, bad for the farmers. Chances are year 1 good rainfall, 2, 3, 4, 5 bad rainfall, bad for the farmers. That is where you see suicide deaths, and that is where you see whatever happens to the farmer, the dismal condition of our farmers. So water is possibly the most important thing for our farming, not only to ensure that our agriculture produces more, also to ensure that our farmers are prosperous, or if they get prosperous, our farmers at least get 2 square meal to eat. It is important. And with this information, now let me get to the story. According to Indian Express, Aadhaar cards were misused to create beneficiaries. New equipments gathering dust, farmers not even aware of the money that has been collected by a private company on their name. What are we talking about? Again, like I told you, we are talking about this per drop more crop scheme, where the government was paying up to 50,000 rupees per acre for farmers for micro irrigation. Now what happened in Jharkhand is people collected, the administration collected fake Aadhaar cards. Based on those Aadhaar cards, they ordered for, those machineries from private companies, and some of the machineries were dumped with the farmers, some of the machineries were dumped elsewhere, and the machineries were dumped. The farmers didn't even know that unke naam pe machinery aaya hai. They didn't even know. They were not even aware. In fact, according to Indian Express, of the 94 farmers here whom the state government claimed are beneficiaries of the scheme in 2022-23, only 17 said that they were actually using drip irrigation. Each micro irrigation unit, which includes pipes of drawing water from the source, lateral tubes and sand filter and the motor, cost up to 50,000 rupees for each acre of land, which is what I told you. Out of 94 people, only 17 people actually had irrigation, had irrigated land. There was no water source. So what are those 94 people going to do with these pipes and these motors? Number one. Number two, Indian Express visited 53 listed beneficiaries in Chauparan, 16 in Churchu, 25 in Ichak. As many as 60 said that they were misled in signing the scheme, or the micro irrigation equipment was just dumped in their farms, and 17 said that did not even know how their names came in the list of beneficiaries. So they had to get this particular equipment, and obviously the people who are doing this must have obviously made enough money with the equipment manufacturers. Those manufacturers were bought and dumped, and there's some Aadhaar card was shown and it got passed off. What I am talking about is a scheme that should have been implemented, and that should have been so important for the state, that should have been so important for the farmers, and that's precisely why I stand here and talk to you. This is ridiculous. This is atrocious. This is atrocious. 50,000 rupees per acre was spent on equipments that are either not usable or lying in somebody's farm. They don't even know what to do with this. Now, the Minister for Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Cooperative is a gentleman called Badal Patralek, who is the minister, and he's a congressman. He is a congressman. He says, I will initiate action based on the information provided. Any person who commits wrongdoings in non-implementation of or ineffective implementation of state or central government schemes will not be spared. I need success stories at any cost, which means implementation at ground level. Till now, none of the farmers have any complaint. And of course, taking cognizance to the investigation of Indian Express, the Jharkhand government Friday formed a 4-member panel to conduct high-level investigation into widespread irregularities and in implementation of per drop more crop scheme. Now, this minister, Mr. Patralek, typical response. Typical response. It has to be implemented. How come it is not implemented? We have no information of these things. Imagine Indian Express, a newspaper, could investigate this. The entire machinery of Jharkhand government couldn't. Are you saying that we should believe this? See, irregularity does not happen without the knowledge of the administration, that to such large scale. It doesn't happen without the knowledge of the administration, number one. Number two, the easiest way to push an irregularity away is to saying put a 3-member, 4-member committee. That committee will go on giving its report after report after report. Do you think that committee is going to write against the minister? Do you think that committee is going to write against important and powerful people? Do you think that committee will ever do that? So what is all about? What is this all about? Why all this? Why all this? So that's the point number 2. My final point. Let's talk politics here. My final point. This is the opposition united. Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, Hemant Soren, Congress and RJD, they are the government in Jharkhand. Is this the face you are going to show? Is this what you are offering the people? Is this the alternative that you are showing to the people? Is this the alternative? Like I told you, the reason why I try and explain to you the whole process is because I just wanted to explain to you how important this is for a farmer. And these are the projects, these are the schemes that could make the difference between a suicide of a farmer and a prosperity of a farmer. These are the steps, and that's precisely why I say this. That's all from me today. Till I see you next time. That's tomorrow at 10. Take care.